everyone, it is me again, Penguin21, and today, well, we hit 800 subscribers. That's grand. Another 200 and we're there. So, yeah. Again, I do want to thank every single one of you for subscribing and choosing to listen to my silly nonsense. But what has been happening in the world of gaming? Well, obviously there is a lot more salt to go over with the whole Microsoft conference. I did an entire video on that, mainly the MBG reaction, but he kind of has the same general reaction as most of the people who had seen that thing, where it was a big amount of nothing. And quite honestly, yeah. Overall, the stuff that I said in that video still kind of pretty much holds water, where they're only bringing 4 games. That's not unexpected for them to release the floodgates or anything like that, just the 4 games. And that, there was a video, or like an interview that Phil Spencer did later, where he said like, oh, well, we're not going to rule out anything of that nature. Because, again, he's not a mind reader. He doesn't know if those sort of things would be happening, because he doesn't necessarily make all of the decisions, technically. Like, he has to go through a board, and he has to go through shareholders, and blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah. It's just not feasible to predict that sort of stuff. In any case, what ended up happening this week? Well, the whole meltdown on Twitter has pretty much subsided, and well, I think these first 2 tweets kind of put that into an interesting consideration, where we have Club Xbox, fucking great stupid name, says, after watching the Xbox business update, I feel safe to say that a lot of people here on X should now have learned a lesson. Don't take leaks and rumors at face value, even if it comes from people you trust. Xbox isn't going away or going third party. Can we all chill now? Which, let me be clear here, and let me be fucking honest with you. I think it's just hilarious, right? How everyone immediately jumped on the bandwagon of like, oh, Xbox is going third party. They're going third party. They're going to stop that. Even though they said that they're bringing like all this, they're not changing their stance. It's just these 4 games. They didn't even say where they were bringing those games or what games they were, which, to be fair, I agree with MBG on that context, that that's kind of like a stupid move to not name the games. You brought everyone here for an amazing, interesting, and big announcement, and you just fucking didn't even give anything good. Like, at least fucking name the games. Well, at least they named that the Diablo 4 was coming to Game Pass, so at least there's that. And then the next one over is visual fidelity here with, last week, Xbox will be releasing first-party IP on other platforms. And they say, pour your chaos, Xbox insiders leaving, Xbox is dead, and death threats. Where it's this week, PS5 might start releasing on other platforms. No PS5 first-party until 2025 equals Helldivers 2 is fun. Where, yeah, I will say that Helldivers 2 is technically published by Sony. Well, not technically, it literally is, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's first party, because unfortunately Arrowhead Studios, they only are an independent developer. They're not owned by Sony. Sony might have a stake in their company, but they don't seem to be owned by them, and according to a lot of the internet stuff, they're still an independent developer. They were just contracted under Sony because of publishing rights. So, I mean, like, bruh. I do think that this does kind of springboard off into what I did want to actually talk about in this, and that is the main slide that was coming from the PlayStation guys that pretty much everyone and their mother basically used as an example to say, oh, PlayStation is not going third party, PlayStation is not going third party, zero indication of that, blah, 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 unlike how, Xbox is doing it, where here's a weird and interesting move. The reason why Xbox, I think, is even doing that is they're trying to put Sony in a different position. Xbox and more or less Microsoft and Phil realized that they can't really play by Sony's rules. And that's understandable, because Sony has a lot of experience with that. I mean, here's another thing. Nintendo plays by fucking no one's rules. Like, they don't give a shit. And yet, they're very, very profitable as well. They released some of the best hardware in terms of sales, as at least. Maybe not the best in terms of specs and legitimately actual writing-wise, because, literally my Steam Deck can shit all over everything that the Switch can do, and more. So, yeah. But at the same time, I find it interesting how the sort of Switch controlling of this is that, Xbox is releasing first party on other platforms. Oh my god. That means Xbox is dead. Xbox is going the way of the dodo. And yet when that narrative, not really when that narrative, but when that sort of thing is kind of flipped and those insults are thrown back with just as much evidence, by the way, because both of them still have, the same amount of evidence that they're, looking to get more aggressive on, other fronts of their development stuff, right? That it's them not going third party. Are you serious? Really? 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 Ay. To me, it's funny to me how, to quote the Red Dragon, how they reached around 34 million subscribers, and they later confirmed it's only because the number was switched over from Xbox Live Gold, which Sony hasn't even reported their numbers as to how many subscribers they have for PS Plus, which I am surprised about, or at least I haven't seen anyone throw around those numbers. But to go on to the next one here, and, what I find interesting is that Otherworldly Gaming kind of went through and did some spaghetti math, roughly, where he says that, so I'm not the best at math. If 34 million people are subscribed to Game Pass, would that put Game Pass annual value, depending on the regular versus ultimate tiers, at somewhere between $4 to $6 billion freaking dollars? That is $46 billion, which is quite substantially a lot of fucking money that is coming in on a monthly basis for Xbox. Because that's not just one-off sales or one-off things. Again, even at the low end, if we were to say that they were just making $4 billion, right? Just making $4 billion, that is an extra $4 billion that is coming in monthly as per all of the users. That is insane. That is a monetary value that no one in their fucking life would be able to even achieve in that sort of success. Again, yeah, certainly, it might not be as big as everything else there, but again, folding in the stuff did boost up those numbers, and that growth is insane. Plus, I also find it weird how they say, 34 million is an abysmal number, and yet on PC or PlayStation with the PS Plus stuff, how many people are subscribed to the higher tiers of that? I know personally 4 people who are I pay for everything. It's okay, well, yeah. And that's another interesting thing, is the whole subscription service model. And to go off on a little bit of a tangent here, the subscription service model, to me, is very much so predatory. And yeah, obviously it's very predatory. It's just dumb, at least to me, but I mean, I get it. It's one of those things where it's a Netflix subscription, or it's a subscription to other stuff. And, I mean, I get it. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I get it. Someone then comes back here with a Phil and Xbox have basically said the future of Xbox is not with consoles, but rather a, quote, gaming platform for all screens. It's a shame, but Xbox is dying, bud. The Series X is the last Xbox console. I look forward to playing Indiana Jones on PS5 next year. And what I find hilarious about that is the sheer fact, right, that they said that they confirm that both of them are not coming to PlayStation. They are coming to everywhere where there's Game Pass. They're coming to everywhere where there's screens. And they also said that they have a next-gen console in the works during the fucking meeting that they were talking about. They didn't necessarily outright confirm, oh yeah, we're working on stuff like that, but they said, oh yeah, well, we do have a next-gen roadmap in the works right now, so that's still being hashed out. So, everything that you just said is wrong. So I mean, I don't know what to tell you, dude. You're just flat out fucking wrong in this. And we have Malgus here with this is why the Xbox community is effing toxic, where he says ponies right now, and then uses an image of a person lying on the ground. I mean, it's no more toxic than, I don't know, using AI-generated images to fucking dunk on each other with, like, the worst possible AI art you could imagine that looks fucking disgusting and atrocious, and, quite frankly, all of it needs to be burned. But sure. Xbox guys are the one who are the more toxic ones. Kind of also springboard off of this, I find it interesting that they say that it's the most toxic, and I get that to some degree, because currently Peter Ovo is wanted by the community for some reason. In accordance to at least baby boy Ray here, he says that get this weak-hearted dude off of the streets. He is certified Phil hater, and if you hate Phil, you hate Xbox. And he is in trouble over basically this tweet where he says, I am an Xbox fan. I am not a Phil Spencer fan, which is a fair assumption to have. You can like the Xbox brand, but you might not like the leadership involved with it. I mean, this is a kind of like a Jim Ryan situation where you have Jim Ryan, who's basically like the head of PlayStation, who sometimes gets blamed and fucking shat on for most of the decisions that like come from Xbox, or not Xbox, PlayStation, my bad. Where Sojin Sage here says, not being a fan of the man who saved the Xbox brand and who delivered Bethesda and all of Activision Blizzard Studios' first-party Xbox studios is crazy. Where, to me, that's not necessarily like the most crazy take out there. I mean, there's far crazier takes on other sides, like Harmon Smith basically saying that Nintendo was God and that every other thing has failed and lost the console war, even though that's not how this works. Or that Jim Ryan basically is, a big fucking dude who just, single-handedly made Sony what it is today, even though I don't really think that that's the case. I mean, yeah, certainly, he has made some very big decisions that will affect Sony in the long term, but if you really think about it, what did he do? Other than, make PlayStation have a glass ceiling, of which they have now recently realized they are quickly approaching, and in order to break through that glass ceiling, they need to branch out into other markets that seem to have a lot more profit potential. Seems rather interesting to me. I think the more interesting things that I will end off with on this is Japan Hates Xbox decided to go on an entire tirade talking about Hi-Fi Rush and how Xbox will never have its own Japanese game where it's a welcome home for Hi-Fi Rush. How he says that it's a multi-platform, a shitbox with no exclusives. Xbox is the laughing stock of the world, how it's a dead console, and then he lists off Grounded, Hi-Fi Rush, Permanent, and Sea of Thieves best on PS5. Even though we don't know the 4 games, I would put at least my money on Hi-Fi Rush, Grounded, and Sea of Thieves, uncertain of Permanent. It might even just be Redfall, which would be super fucking hilarious because that will not sell over there. And then just say what they wanted versus what they want, where he's literally cry laughing, where, they wanted Final Fantasy, but, Hi-Fi Rush is coming to PS5, according to him. And I find it really funny, because of all the people out there to really start touting that Hi-Fi Rush is a fucking great game, Japan Hates Xbox once did say that Hi-Fi Rush was absolute garbage and did not really deserve to be on Xbox consoles because it was Japanese, and how its potential and shit was just being dog shit and, at Game Pass fodder. But now, with the chance of it maybe coming to his console, oh yeah, no, it's the greatest game in the world, and Xbox will never have its own Japanese game. By the way, Pal World is made by a Japanese company, Pocket Pair, and it sold around, I don't know, fucking 12 million on PC and 7 million players concurrently, with a total of 19 million, maximum players at its peak popularity. and it still sits around like 500 to 600k concurrent players at its all-time peak when it's online. I mean, that just well done. You really showed them. Golf clap to you. And finally, I think we'll end it off with a post of, remember when it was all single player over everything for a select community? You remember those days? Pepperidge Farm remembers that. You know why? Because now it's all about Helldivers 2, Helldivers 2, Helldivers 2. And how, Sony's game of Helldivers 2 is great. And let me just be honest with this. Helldivers 2 is a good game. It's fantastic. It's fine. It works well. It's got all the stuff you could want. It's hit a maximum capacity of around 330 something, I think, at this point. Good for them. An excellent game and very much well-deserved for Arrowhead Studios and Sony. Definitely interesting. And I think that this is what triggered the whole shift in them thinking, maybe we should bring more of our games to more platforms. Because if we get this amount of success with very much the same amount of marketing that we normally do to hype up these games, yeah, those numbers do not lie. If I remember correctly, isn't like the PlayStation's total amount of games in there about like, I don't know, 10, 15 million? I don't remember the amount of players that are on PlayStation. But even if it's like a fraction of that and it like doubles their sales, that is totally worth the amount of money that they put in to do that. And I think Arrowhead Studios at least recognized this, and they more or less probably fought Sony on that, saying like, no, let's release this on both because then we can make double the money. And Arrowhead was like, other stuff. By the way, I also looked this up on their like Steam profile page. They made Magicka. If you don't know what Magicka is, you have no idea how good of a fucking studio Arrowhead can be. Because Magicka is fucking awesome. And it's one of those things where it's like an isometric spell game and stuff. I'm not sure if it was available on consoles, but it was definitely available on PC, and by God, was that a fun game. It's a fun game all around. Overall, I think that we can call it about there. I wanted to do more of an update style video. And just talk about it, but in the end, I can't stop talking about this salt. So I think that next week will be more of an official commentary on 800 subscribers, like an official, actual talking about it. It's going to be like a Thursday video, and I'm just going to show my entire grateful and thankfulness because, quite frankly, you all deserve it, and you all are amazing. And I could not ask for a better community, a better amount of people to be sharing my thoughts and feelings with, and quite honestly, thank you so much for everything you provide for me. With that being said, like I said before at the top of the video, still looking to hit 1K. Liking, sharing, and commenting and subscribing is always appreciated. You don't have to, but I do appreciate and love you the same. If you want my new single, that being Ode to My Friday Nights, which is coming out in the first week of March, the more specific will probably be coming out next week, I appreciate it, and to me, that's a very special track that I do want to have everyone listen to. It's a great track, and I'm happy for it. Links to the Bandcamp and stuff if you want to listen to more of my music down in the description below, as well as I do stream on weekends. Saturday and Sundays is usually my mainstream days, but I do also stream sometimes on Fridays and Thursdays. Just check the Twitch whenever I go live. Links always down in the description below. But with that being said, thank you so much for watching. My name is GamePanguin21. Don't be a fanboy like these guys here. And a peace. Hey man, can I get a